What's good, fellas? Patriarch Panda here, and today I'm going to be doing a Darius guide. Now, I wanted to get around to this a wee while ago, however, I've been feeling a wee bit ill, and I don't know if you can tell, my eyes watering like hell. I don't know where it's coming from, but like I've been just so off. I feel like my eye is about to pop out my skull, that type of feeling. But we're here. I finally got around to it. Let's talk about Darius and how to play the fella. And do keep in mind this is a starter guide. I may do a more in-depth one down the line. Alright, so to get us started off, you gotta do the usual, and that's obviously talking about the strengths and weaknesses. So I'm going to talk about the weaknesses first, get that out of the way. And basically, when it comes to one of his main weaknesses, in a tag fair, this is a big deal, doesn't really have any full screen presence, right? There's not really a tool that he's going to represent that you'll be all like, oh, I need to watch out for this from full screen, right? So that means when the Darius is here, now you have to be scared. But here, this is safe. This is safe. If you're playing something like Jinx, you're going to have a good time zoning out Darius, right? So that's one of his key weaknesses immediately. He does have this. This does reach pretty far, but it's like, he's inched forward a teeny bit for it to land. So again, if you're zoning with Jinx, this is going to be a problem for Darius. This is one of your big weaknesses. Zoners are a bit of a nightmare, right? The other problem with Darius is that he is very parryable on a lot of his offense. It is very easy to deal with what makes this guy so scary, right? Like, as you can see here, a lot of his slower tools are reactable. This is a pretty slow tool, so if the opponent's waiting, they can parry it. And the same goes for this Rika series, where the first hit is a true block string, so there's nothing wrong with ever doing this. But you gotta bait parry. So that's one of the problems with this character, is that parry is an amazing way to deal with his offense. That's why you're gonna have to throw in a lot more stagger work, or maybe do some different type of delays to call out parry like I did right there. His next problem is down to the assists, right? So when you think about like really good assists in this game, I'll show it off with Brum. You either have an approaching assist, so kind of like this, so it makes block strings true, or can you get away with some cheeky stuff? As you see, that's now a true block string now, was it before? And the other thing is that your other assists will have utility, and Brum's assist is that he gives you a shield that takes a free hit, so you can do whatever you want. So in this team setup, I can do this into that, right? That's uncontestable, so that's pretty strong. Darius' assist is a shoulder tackle that doesn't really cover a lot of space, right? As you can see here, it doesn't cover a lot of space, but the spaces it does cover, it's quite decent, right? It's quite decent, you know? It gives you like plus frames to work with to go to town and start a combo. And then his other assist is another short range assist, and that's his yoink, which is a good assist. Like, don't get me wrong, pretty good assist. However, as you can tell, they both kind of do the same job. They're both a mid-range assist that can be used to convert into immediate Darius pressure. Which is a good and bad thing, because it means that your assist is based solely to get something started with Darius, meaning you have to use this in offense. And if you're playing a character like Blitzcrank, Darius isn't going to help you in neutral, and that's the problem. You'll have to play Darius neutral, because his assist isn't going to help you. It might help a character like Brum, because Brum can kind of approach in his own way. As you can see here, he's got a lot of reach. So Brum may be a good pick for Darius, but I don't think a character like Blitz works too well for him. So his synergy isn't that great with the rest of the cast. When it comes to Darius, I think one of his key strengths is his poking. He can hit from pretty far. In fact, this is where his 5M hits, which is pretty good. His 5H hits about here. His S2 hits pretty damn far, you see that? That's a pretty good neutral tool. Same with his forward S2. And same with a lot of his tools like his sweep, right? This is a down forward H or free H, right? Which is damn far. And on hit can give a combo, right? That's pretty good, right? That's a pretty good poke. When you're playing mid-screen, Darius can play neutral, right? He can play it very well. So if you're at this point and you're not fighting a Jinx, it's trying to retreat, you're fighting maybe like another Darius or maybe a Brum or some type of fella like that, or Yasuo, you can poke into him with Darius, right? You can actually play poke. Next key strength is your damage. You hit for a goddamn truck, right? Basic B and B. That's a good chunk. This is about 50%. And if you want to stack up bleed, you do good damage, you get Okier, you get a pickup, 40%, and now your gimmick's in play. So if he lands a hit, he's going to cash out for a lot of damage. He's a pretty good damage character. Another key strength is, as we saw here, he has a pretty fast slow. And to mix that up, he has an overhead. And if you want to confirm from this overhead, you have to go straight into super, like that. Or you have to go for an assist. So overall, you have a pretty good offensive toolkit with Darius. You have an overhead, and you have a low. You also have a low block string. This is all low. Right, pretty good low block strings, keep the pressure on. And you can hit confirm it, so there's a lot of good stuff there for his mixed game. Bleed is another big strength. Basically, this is his main mechanic. We'll get into this later. Bleed is super strong depending on the characters that he's paired with. A character like Brum, I think, is good at abusing bleed. A character like Lowy is probably the best with Darius for abusing bleed. So this is a pretty good mechanic. Basically, we'll get into that later. We'll get into the full details. But you gotta know that this mechanic coming up is nasty. He's overall just a solid pick. There's not really any negatives. There's very few negatives. Into the mindset. So basically, you want to play a bit chill and then push your advantage with large attacks, right? As you saw, if I do this, that's from so damn far. And I'm playing up against a character like Brum. He's super slow. He can go for a whiff button, and just like that, I'm in, right? We've got corner pressure. I gotta do what I want. The other thing as well is that with Darius, he does actually have pretty decent speed. So there'll be times where you just literally go for a run-up poke and then just go straight into a block string. It's more likely that you can either wait for a whiff and then try to get a hit in like this, set up throw, get a pickup, you know what I mean? Like, he has some pretty good ways to go about the game. So in your mindset, you want to aim to whiff punish and kind of play movement, right? You don't have to approach, or you can choose to go all in and go straight for the approach. You can do whatever you want with this character. He's like a sandwich, right? All the core ingredients are there. You've got your bread, your butter, your meat, your lettuce, your tomatoes, like you name it. He's got it all, right? So that's the positive. Is it the best sandwich you've ever had? No, but it's a pretty good sandwich. You know, you're on way for a genuine meal, so your goal is to either choose to approach when you feel like it, or wait for them to whiff a normal to get a hit confirm situation, to get a knockdown and do whatever you want, right? So you land this, boom, boom, and then just like you're on the offense, right? Oh, I hit him again, right? Just go for the chase. I saw he did a roll this time. Well, bam! Into super, bam! Right? So on offense, I can do what I want, and in neutral, I can do what I want. I can play patient or I can dash. So it's up to you. That's your choice. The other mindset or goal, I'll say, for this one is that you want to apply bleed as often as you can, right? Because bleed doesn't disappear until the opponent hits Darius. I've paid attention to timer on this thing. It basically just never disappears. It never disappears until they hit Darius. And it makes it so they take more chip damage on block, right? So you want to set this up as often as you can. You need it. The other thing is that, like we mentioned before, one of his biggest weaknesses, this is one of your goals when playing the character, is calling out parry. You need to call this out with Darius, otherwise people are just going to escape your pressure. So you need to be super ready to just kind of like drop your pressure at a moment's notice, because as you're seeing, he's pretty parryable, right? This tool, even though it's an amazing offensive tool, is pretty reactable. You can parry it and then get a big cash out. It's the same for this one. Does that, parry the second hit. You can do this as well, right? You can do this as well, right? But that's also parryable, right? So you need to be like, okay, we need to play it cool. We need to try to stay true, or we need to call out the opponent, try to deal with me. So that's your ideas with Darius. Is like, I'm going to do some offense, delay myself, call out parry, right? I'm going to go crazy, look for a delay, punish, get a big combo, hurt him for it, and that's the way you got to play this character. You need to bait parry. So those are your three main goals. Get bleed, play with punishment into any form of offense whenever you can, and bait parry. Once you've done those three things, you have done your goals on Darius, in my opinion. Up next, I'm going to tell you about how to play neutral the character. And basically, you want to use your long attacks to contest space, like we were saying earlier, right? A part of your mindset, part of your goals, represent your long reaching attacks to beat these types of mid-screen situations, right? Brum is slow. It's more likely if you throw out this before he throws out a button, you're going to hit him. So that's going to be your main goal. So your next problem is dealing with zoning as Darius. As we're seeing here, he doesn't really have utility besides trying to play a dash game. So what you should be doing is using your assist, depending on your assist, to try and get in. Right? That's why I think your goal is with assists and Darius in neutral is that if you're running the right assists like Jinx, you can use this to approach, right? That'll cover the ground, and basically while you're running up, you'll cover the air, kind of like this. And basically, if the rocket hits or any form of projectile hits, you get a confirm, and if they jump back, you get an air block string. So that's your goal. That's your goal. You want to use assist to get in if it's a zoner matchup. Punishment medium is pretty good for with punishing attacks. So if you notice that someone's with something pretty big, like one of those dash attacks, kind of like Jinx's forward medium, you can do this to immediately get the damage. And you should always, on hit, if you want to keep it simple, confirm it to 5H into Rika. You get bleed, you get the knockdown. Sure, it's simple, but you're always going to get some of this. Now, you can go for an assist to make the combo more consistent and get way more reward, but like, I recommend paying attention to the distances and keeping it safe for now and running offense afterwards. Again, this is a starter guide. You want to get better at the game, you gotta go step beyond. This is just telling you how to play the character. Another tool that's amazing for getting in or noticing a whiff situation is this, right? If you're up against someone who's just whiffed the normal, maybe whiff something big, and you need to close the distance quickly, you do that. And then you get knocked out and you get run offense. The other thing is that if you think they're doing something slow that covers like massive neutral things, so let's say Jinx is about to shoot a rocket at me, bam! I hit her before she does the rocket, and then I'm getting that bleed applied. We're in the corner, running offense. Oh, you try to run away, thrown right back into the corner, right? So in neutral, do try to represent this as kind of like a poke. Don't confirm it. Do not confirm it unless you see the opponent spin. If you see them spinning, right, then confirm. You can really delay it. Look how much I'm delayed. You see that? I have all day. All day. When you're up against bigger guys like Blitzcrank, you can actually zone, right? So in neutral, you could genuinely throw this out because Blitzcrank doesn't really have anything to beat you. And I think you'll get hit triangle for the hook can. So this is sometimes worth representing. If you're in mid-screen against a Blitzcrank, throw out some of these, right? This is your crouching special too. Just throw it out, you know? What's he gonna do? Hit you? Right? Just throw it out. Do a couple of tosses, couple of Rimpookins, never hurt nobody. Not a bad idea, represent. It's not an amazing tool. This is probably like the worst fireball in the game, but nothing wrong with representing it. Amazing neutral poke is your free H or your down forward heavy. If you represented the right spacing, which is like right here, look at that. Wow, the knockdown on this is insane. You're getting some mad reach off of this. If you want to confirm, you can go straight into the S2 specials that we were doing earlier. You can also go for a fireball into this. Keep it simple, you get bleed and they're pushed back, and if they're Blitzcrank, guess what, back to fireballs. So this normal is amazing to represent, an amazing tool to just throw out there. Because of the reach, if they try to hit you, you'll probably hit them first and then it's a big knockdown. And if you want to keep it simple, you can go straight into super to get as much damage as you want and run Oki. Because this is break safe. If you do this, this is break safe. The opponent cannot break. It's pretty big. So another thing that you could do, if you want to do something cheeky and neutral, right, is that when you're fighting a character like a Lowy, they'll represent this full screen low, right? But as you see, the startup animation's pretty slow, right? If you want to beat this, you could just send out Super 2. Doesn't have any iframes, but the reaches on it is absurd. So if you feel like you want to interrupt somebody, not a bad idea. You know it's a slow ass move in neutral, send it. Send it. Look how much damage I got from that. That'll teach you, bro. That'll teach you. I'm hitting further. This is the super awkward tool to deal with. As you can tell, Darius kind of makes himself float, so if they go for an anti-air, they can miss him. And because he's so high up, if they go for an anti-air, he can actually hit them sometimes. And if you do it like instantly, like immediately off the ground, you actually can get a pickup off this. It's a little awkward. It's a little awkward, I won't lie to you. But as you can see, you get some good reward. So there's nothing wrong with representing it. And on block, plus. So in neutral, you want to make things a bit awkward. Neutral hop into this move, right? Pretty decent, pretty decent. Important to know how your offense works, so I'm pulling off all the details now. As you can see, not really any of his tools are plus, right? Does have a plus tool in his arsenal, right? A lot of it is safe, don't get me wrong. Like, look at that, -1 on a jab, pretty decent. -2 on a crouching jab, pretty decent. Coming out in 9 frames, 8 frames. He doesn't have a fast tool, kind of like Vi or like Ari or Yasuo, something of that nature. But besides that, what he does have is actually quite decent though. Most of it is pretty safe. He does have ways to sell plus frames, kind of like this charged heavy here that gives plus 31, but that's everyone in the roster. Not interested there. In terms of normals, doing resets will come after your lights. I wouldn't recommend it after a medium. A pretty big gap, you're more likely to get hit, but off of lights, for sure. Like, if you want to do throw, I would do off of a light. So that's what I'd recommend after doing lights. It's like jab, 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 throw. Something like that. Your pressure is susceptible to parries, so you want to call them out on offense. So as we talked about earlier, maybe just do one hit of your Rika, wait to see what they do, and then go like, oh okay, they aren't doing anything, then that means I can send the second hit now. And just like that, I've got the bleed property patched, and then I get to run whatever offense I want because my opponent is asleep at the wheel. So that's the big thing about Darius, you gotta see if your opponent's awake or asleep. But once they respect you, once they're done going for parries, let's talk about this mix-up tool. This mix-up tool is quite decent, right? This is his S1, this is his joint, we'll call it, just for simplicity's sake. And basically, it is a mix-up with 3 different options. As you can see, he has one where he does a headbutt, one where he does a big slash that applies bleed, which is very strong, and the other one being a command grab. And I'm going to tell you how to use every single one of these tools. Headbutt is going to be your main mix-up or catch tool, right? If the opponent goes to jump, they'll get hit by this. And if you miss time it, let's say you do a slight delay like this, they'll be brought back down to earth, and they'll block it, and it's still your turn. You kind of want to use this tool like like your main mix-up, like your main one to go to. However, if you notice your opponent is going for a lot of jump outs, and you really want to call them out for these dumb mistakes, you go straight into this one. Super safe at -2 with a ton of pushback, and applies bleed, and on hit gives you a knockdown. So you want to represent this one, I think, if you want to stay safe, right? This is a true block string, the opponent can't do much, right? So if this is blocked, you want to keep it safe, do that. And look how much chip damage I'm doing now. Ridiculous. But yeah, the main reason why you want to represent the headbutt is that it's a good strike mix and an overhead, so if the opponent is asleep at the wheel, they get hit. And the big thing is that you get a combo. Pretty big combo, right? So not wrong with representing that. The next option that's pretty good is the command grab. Why do we do the command grab? Well, beat parrying, and of course the opponent just sitting there and just kind of holding your offense, right? Because you could kind of like go into headbutt, this is a -2, and go for a spacing trap, where if they go for jab, hit with this, right? The command grab is just like, yeah, I want to cash out. And it's a pretty good damaging command grab, does about maybe 20-ish%. But the good thing about it is that you can actually link it into super and put them right back in the corner. The Oki isn't amazing, you're plus 20, so it's like you do get a guaranteed chop at them like this one. But the opponent is in the corner after taking a good chunk of damage, so this is a pretty solid option to represent. If you feel like your opponent's just blocking it out, like they respect you way too much, or if they're representing parry after this, which is stupid, grab them, right? Just grab them, send it, put them back in the corner with a super. That's what I recommend doing. It's pretty good. I'm gonna do mix-ups that beat parry, like you want to stay like block string safe while doing a mix-up. I recommend doing an assist and then mixing up your tools from there. So if you want to go for an overhead attempt, let's say the opponent's got a block flow, what you can do is do an assist and then go into overhead like this. So if you really want that extra 50-50 and you want to go like high-low with Darius, so you want like a proper mix-up, I would recommend going for this, right? Because as you're seeing, you get way more reward and you get to print whatever you want. And if you're wrong on the 50-50, the positive is that Darius is only -2 off this tool, right? Which is pretty good, pretty good. And then the assist basically makes him plus, so this ends up being blocked. And then you go again. You know, so that's the positive about this mix-up, is that it's just a good overhead to represent, and right now nobody's really blocking overheads when they're put in the corner, so Might want to throw this out a lot. You're down 4 medium. It's pretty good. Charged heavy isn't too bad. This is a pretty good normal that gives like a turn, right? So as you're seeing here, it gives you plus like 30 odd. It's pretty good. So if you want to go for like a straight up mix up, way to go for sure. Also recommend going for like a throw afterwards, especially in the corner. You get a ton of reward after it. Like you get a mix up and you get plus frames. You get to do whatever you want. So here going for like a bit of a delay throw, into the pickup, and your opponent's still stuck in the corner with bleed. So that's pretty good. Yeah, simple block strings. I recommend going light, medium, heavy. You can do light, medium, forward, heavy. Either or, it doesn't really matter. And basically, it's just a good staggered string, and especially with bleed applied, because if bleed's applied, this one will do extra chip damage, even the normals. It's pretty good. And then while you're doing these staggers, again, look out for parry, right? Simple block strike you go for, and then you gotta do the hit confirm Rika, right? Do one. There's the parry, bait it. Or you're gonna do what? Wait, punish, right? You could do light, medium, sweep, right? All a true block string, but you represent 3 different lows there. So it's bop, 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 right? Pretty good. And if any of them connect, you're able to go straight into Rika. So pretty good, pretty good. You get headless, you get the corner, and you get to tap the shins. Going for a ton of light pokes into throw is also a good mix to represent, so I'd recommend that. Like, even if you get hits, even if you get like blocks, nothing wrong with a bunch of lights into throw. Because your mix-ups aren't really that strong with Darius. You do have an overhead, you do have a low, but if you're going to open up people most of the time, you don't have like a super left-right stuff shenanigans with assist. Darius doesn't really have all that, but what he does have, it's a pretty good normal throw, right? In the corner, you get a combo, right? Mid-screen, you get a pickup from anywhere, right? It's pretty strong. So the next part of this tutorial is to teach you what bleed does, right? So the main thing about bleed is that when you have it, the opponent now takes way more chip damage. So I'm going to show you a block string without it, and as you've seen here, it doesn't really deal a ton of damage. But when bleed is applied, so we'll do this. Alright, pay attention. Look at that. That's a solid 5% chunk just from them blocking this. And that's a lot of damage, right? So let's say the opponent's down to their last 7% health. You could do this. For a true block string, 7% chip kill. Very strong. Alright, Panda from the future here. I didn't really explain this too well, so I'm doing it again. And to put it simply, when it comes to bleed, it's kinda inconsistent because it's based upon the distance at which this move lands, right? So if you're neutral and you land like one of these, you'll always get bleed essentially, you get run in. However, if you do a baby combo like this, bleed will never apply because it's so close. Like look at this, if you do it close, it will never apply. But if you got that nice range, like you understand the range, like oh this will work, you get bleed every time. So depending on where that move hits is how bleed works. So you need to kind of alter your combos around it. So if you're in the corner, you can't do something like this, right? You can't do something like this. This won't work either. You have to do something like this. That'll give you bleed. So you need to adjust your hits, and we'll be talking about it way later when it comes to the combo section, but you have to adjust what you're going to do for bleed. Another thing that gives you bleed is this, right? Doing this on hit or on block will always give bleed. So it's not a bad idea if it is used, if this is blocked, go straight to that, get your bleed. Bleed is important. And that's everything I gotta say from current Panda. Peace. If you do this, you get bleed, okay? Another thing to do to get bleed is headless. Headless, no matter the interaction, will always give bleed. So if you're in a combo and you want to like really cash out, to keep it simple, you do something like this. You get the corner, you get headless, put them back into the corner, do a pickup, whatever. They're in bleed, right? They're in bleed point. So that's pretty strong for Darius, is that he always has a way to get into bleed, being this super and being this. However, this is awkward. There's not really a lot of times where you're going to get this, because we said earlier, it's parryable. But on block, it also gives bleed. So if you're in a situation where this is blocked, maybe it's worth doing that instantly. There's no pickup that you get afterwards, but you know, you've got bleed. As you can see, it's a little awkward. Besides that, there's no other way to get bleed, and it's a very awkward mechanic. It feels like a lot of it makes sense, and then it doesn't at the same time. Looking at the list here, you want to either put him with Ari, put him with Brum, put him with Echo, Aloy, or Jinx, or Vi. Yasuo's pretty solid with bleed. I don't think he's that crazy. Blitzcrank is kinda awful. His block strings don't long last enough for the bleed to matter, so I kinda ignore it. Brum has some good stuff, it's a little gimmicky. Ari's just a solid pick. And Vi is super aggressive. Uber aggressive. Jinx has safe zoning, so she gets bleed on the opponent. Just like that, her zoning, if you dash block it, is scary. And Aloy has some disgusting pressure in this game. So that's why you want to pick those characters with bleed. And I think Aloy is his best match, as she has a ton of corner suffocating scenarios that the opponent just has to accept a lot of the time. So those are the best pairings for bleed, and that's how you get bleed. But now let's talk about your defense. When you're on the back, right, you're stuck here, stuck in the corner, having to defend. You don't have a plethora of tools like Yasuo, right? But you do have some good tools, right? Your jab's an 8-framer, kinda mid, not gonna lie. But if you're being beat, spacing trapped, medium's pretty good. So if you feel like the opponent's doing some spacing trap stuff, where you're like, -2, the opponent's -2, and they want to hit you for pressing that button, bam, you'll hit them for trying to do a spacing trap. So this is not too bad on defense, but be careful with it, it's not the best. Another amazing defensive tool is this one, down forward S2, or free S2 as it's known. This gives you a single hit of armor. I'll show you it right now. Gives you a single hit of armor, and you can knock back the opponent, right? Pretty good. However, where it shines is with your supers. Right, that one hit armor tool just gave me 50% on the opponent. Pretty good tool. Obviously, I may want to note about your defense is your level 3. Every level 3 has iframes. It'll let you escape any bad situation. So if you feel like there's some type of, oh, I need to hold iframes, you know, just let it rip, you know, just let it rip. They can't hit you, you're gonna hit them. Your other supers have no iframes, by the way, so don't be thinking you can rely on these. You can't. No iframes whatsoever. Another great tool on defense to use is your down forward free. Now you're probably wondering why it comes out in 16 frames, why would I use this in defense? If you're holding pressure and they're trying to re-engage, check their shins, right? If they're trying to re-engage and you're stuck in the corner where spacing traps are happening, you can kind of just interrupt them, kind of crouch under some of the attacks, and then rush in and start your offense. So if you're in defense, you need a long reaching shin catcher, pow, right? Just like you're in, starting your offense. The other thing that I recommend getting good with is the fundamental mechanics. Use push block. This is an amazing tool, right? Look at that. Jinx just pushed them back so damn far. So much so, I get that. You know, we were talking about the spacing traps. Boom, 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 just like we escaped. And that applied bleed! But yeah, up next is your combos, right? So that's what you want to do on defense. This is what you're going to want to do on combos. If you get a bar hitting 5M, which will happen a lot, you're going to miss on your key launchers, right? You see that? You're not getting anything. So what I recommend doing is keeping it simple, and that's doing this. Pretty good, right? You're going to get bleed, and you get to do a ton of corner carry, take them to the wall, that type of stuff, right? So you go bump, bump, rush away, take your offense. Pretty good. If you're near the corner, you get far hit 5M, but not too far, about this distance. Do a very simple combo where you link your forward S2, and it should look like this. Again, the notations will be underneath, and that is a pretty good combo to do, but there are some ranges where this won't work, and I'll show you now. Right? So if you're pretty far, it won't work, but if you're here or here, it should work. A combo I recommend learning if you want to do an up close juggle. Basically, if you don't need the corner Gary, you just want a big combo, you can do this. Get a whole super, get a ton of damage, 50%. No bleed, but the damage is very high on that combo. If you need a corner carry combo, I recommend doing this. And just like you've got the corner lock, you can do super, or you can keep the rage up to you. This also goes for your light stars. You could do this. So pretty good. Darius getting this off of a light is ridiculous. That is a lot of damage. So in terms of combos, he does have them. He does have them. But if you ever get like these single hits like this, I recommend just going straight into this because it gives bleed and hard knockdown. And if you ever get this, maybe going straight into the forward S2 like this. And then keep an EOK from there. There are bigger combos out there that are worth learning, but right now you're doing the star guide, you're just learning the character, so it's good to get your basis of what you want to do. And I think that'll be the entire guide in terms of this. I hope you guys enjoyed, hope you guys like and subscribe, put a bit of time into this one. And I think in the future, you're either going to do another grappler deep dive, or I'm going to do some more duo gameplay with my main man Frankie. So if you guys enjoy, be sure to like and subscribe, check out the membership, the kofi, and hype up the videos. It's greatly appreciated. Helps in the algorithm. So I'm going to peace out, fellas. Hope you guys have a nice day. See ya.